Welcome back. Episode 10.2 of Griddyiron Gang. Due to technical difficulties. Yo, that's hard to say.
That is hard to say when you're not in the right mind.
Oh, shit.
Be looking all red on camera.
Oh, shit. Welcome back. Episode 10.2 of Griddyiron Gang. Due to technical difficulties, we were unable to give you our week 2 review, so we'll do it right here in a brief summary. And to start off right away, the Chargers went on the road. Arrowhead went up 10-0 early, but ended up taking the L to the Chiefs 24-27. What'd you think about this game?
Oh man, it was a hard fought game, but I think at the end of the day, I look at it and I think that I come away with the Chargers having the more talented team, but Patrick Mahomes is one of a kind, and going up against him that's a tough task. And I think the Chargers may have the upper hand at home next time they play, but like I said before, that 99-yard pick six was like the dagger that just did the Chargers in, and they didn't really recover after that. So.
That's for sure. That was the difference in the game, and then their quarterback took a hit too. I think broken rib cartilage or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
I think it was fractured. Yeah.
yeah, it's something to keep an eye on going forward. Next game, history. Miami comes back from a big deficit in the fourth quarter, down 21, to beat the Baltimore Ravens 42-38. Man, Tua ends up with 6 touchdown passes. Tyreek and Waddle, first duo with 10 catches, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns in a game. Lamar did his thing on the other side, over 300 yards passing, over 100 yards rushing. Blew the game though. Gave up bars to Tyreek. It's the one thing you can't do against a team with speed like that.
Yeah, I don't. The Dolphins, they got down early, by 21 points, but they really did fight back, and you got to give them credit for that at least. Tua, is he finally showing something, or is it more of a fluky game in your eyes? 450, 6 touchdowns, that's hard to do. So was it just broken coverages all around for you guys, or?
It was a little fluky. It was a lot of yards after the catch until those broken coverages happened, and obviously realized it and threw it over the top, but they had no business being in that game. We should have won that by 14, 17.
Yeah, for sure. I at least thought two touchdowns probably, especially when you got up 21-0. I was like, maybe they cut the lead and cut it down from 21 to 14, but I didn't expect them to score 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter alone.
The only thing worse than that comeback was Mike Gesicki's gritty after he scored that touchdown.
Dude, I saw the video and he tweeted or something and it said, "It looked better in my mirror last night."
Oh, that was hilarious.
That was the fastest robotic gritty I've ever seen in my life.
That was better than what my shit looked like. I ain't even gonna lie.
Oh, shit.
From a shootout to a game that was all about defense, Tampa Bay went on the road in New Orleans, took a dub 20-10. After this was a battle most of the way through. Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans get thrown out of the game. Mike Evans gets suspended for a game, but I think that was really the turning point in this game.
Oh, most definitely. They were going at it all game long, and Lattimore he's a tough defensive player to cover while he's out. That's to take his place. Those are big shoes to fill on that side of the ball. And Mike Evans being out, I think, you already got Godwin out, you already got Julio out. That offense is kind of reeling, especially with that interior line being beat up. So I think this is going to be a true test moving forward for the Bucs, especially when you're going to be playing at home against Green Bay, and that's a game either of them can't afford to lose. So, it's going to be tough for the Buccaneers to bounce back, I think. But I like what I see out of the Saints team. I mean, they got a solid defense, but they got a lot of weapons on offense. If Winston just minimizes those mistakes, I think they'll be in the hunt come playoff time.
I agree. These past 2 games, we've had not rookie head coaches, but new head coaches and new locations. How do you think they're faring so far? Mike McDaniel and Dennis Allen.
I think they're doing okay. Hats off to Mike McDaniel. Obviously, I've talked about him a lot this offseason. I like him a lot. I think he was a good pick for them, offensive mastermind. And he's got a lot of weapons to play with out there. So, I mean, 2 wins out right off the bat, that's good for those guys. But Dennis Allen, he's familiar in that system. He was under Sean Payton all those years. I think they still got that chip on their shoulder type mentality, like swagger that they bring out. So not much has changed in New Orleans from a cultural standpoint. I think it's just more so of, putting it all together, because they got the talent there all the time, but it's just they have some years that just don't swing their way. But I think, Winston minimized those mistakes, and they'll be in it at the end of the year. I'm truly confident in that. If they can play the Bucks well all the time, I mean, they're not far off from playing better teams the same way.
I definitely agree. It comes down to the quarterback, like it always does. Next game, we had Washington on the road at Detroit. Detroit was favored in the first time in a long time, and they ended up coming out on top, 47-36. Jared Goff had a big game, over 250 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. I think the real story was Amon-Ra St. Brown, though. Really had a breakout game.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely stepping up to the plate, and if he continues that, man, I mean, they got so many playmakers over there on both sides of the ball that, I mean, they're truly a scary team to think about playing, because they can be a team that just ruins your chances at the playoffs, and they might sneak in. So when you think about it, as a Vikings fan, I am getting nervous. We play them this week. I'm getting nervous, especially after last night's debacle.
Debacle, yeah, you can put it that way. Washington, they also have a lot of weapons. Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Gibson, Logan Thomas. So, I mean, this was a shootout for a little bit, but Wentz made a crucial play.
Yeah.
And just Washington wasn't able to pull it out in the end. Detroit's offense is for real, and the defense is only come up, though.
Yeah, they're a solid. I mean, and it's not even that. Even being like somewhat of a rival in the division with us, they're still a team that's hard to not root for because of what they've been through. I mean, they always seem to. They've been, had bad luck with a few coaches. I like Caldwell back when they had him, but I think Matt Patricia set them back so far, and Dan Campbell's pulling them out of that gutter like quickly, and that's a testament to that coach and his staff.
Patricia was bad out there.
He was terrible.
They should have never got rid of JC, but I mean, that's the price you pay.
Yeah.
Next game. There wasn't one game that made history, but there was 2. The Jets on the road at Cleveland win 31-30 after being down 2 touchdowns with under 2 minutes left to go in this game. Wow, Joe Flacco let a team do a comeback.
Yeah.
The same day the Ravens lose, and it's just sweet irony.
That's a hell of a day. I don't know. I think, hats off to the Jets. I do like Robert Saleh and where he's bringing this team along, and I think a lot of their rookies are paying early dividends, especially Garrett Wilson. I mean, I haven't really honestly heard too much of Jermaine Johnson, but you got Sauce Gardner out there he's a culture changer himself, just bringing that swagger each and every day. But Cleveland, Jacoby played great. Made a couple. Made those mistakes at the end, but he did what he had to do. I mean, that's on your defense for giving up 31 points.
It's like, yeah, it definitely.
So, what can you say besides that? I mean, Cleveland they're a decent team. They're not good. They're not great, but they have a hell of a running game. It's just you're reeling from losing Deshaun in 11 games because you had expectations with him, and you kind of are changing your offensive scheme around, towards to cater to him. And now you got to put Jacoby in, who is not doing a bad job, and a quarterback that I like as a backup. But shoot, it's hard. Deshaun's a game changer when he's out there. So it's just a matter of time before I think he really, sets them on the right path.
I agree. Cleveland should definitely be 2-0. Like you said, Brissett did everything he needed to do in this game. What was he, 22 of 27, 229 yards, and did throw that crucial pick at the end. But
Yeah.
this is a team that needs to ride the running backs. Chubb had 17 for 87 and 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
Some people argue he should have had 2, just sat down, let the clock run out, but they missed the extra point after that. Lost on a size kick. I mean, you can't blame him for that.
You can't put that on Chubb.
No, you can't do that. Next game, Carolina at New York. New York, 2-0, baby.
Yeah.
Big game this week against the Cowboys, but we'll get to that in a second. Baker looks like he struggled out there, under 50%, under 150 yards, and McCaffrey was really the only bright spot on this offense.
Yep.
I mean, this was a defensive battle, if you could say that.
Yeah, I think the offensive line in Carolina is still a big question mark. I think that's kind of their one glaring weakness on that team, because I think their defense is pretty solid, and I think Baker was the right choice over Sam Darnold to lead that squad, especially with the weapons they got in place there. But I just think, before I move on to New York, Matt Rule is a joke of a coach. I don't like him, and I think he's their downfall over there. I don't remember what the thing was. I have to go back and look, but he's 1 in 24 in Carolina while something happens in a specific scenario during a game. So that's kind of worrisome when you have that kind of record at all.
Right.
But now moving on to New York, I just think that Daboll's got that that team and organization. They're just changing the culture around and getting that identity as a winning organization. You got weapons. It's just Daniel Jones is just.
He's not it.
That's just the downfall of that team. I mean, what was he, 170 yards or something like that?
I mean, they got Tyrod Taylor.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I would feel more comfortable putting him in leading this team that's around Daboll right now. Like, that personnel grouping for this year's team, I would have more confidence in Tyrod Taylor leading that team for getting some W's. Because they have a solid defense.
Mm-hmm.
You got weapons, obviously, and Barkley looks like he's, back to his old self, which is encouraging. But I just think that he's instilling that mindset of winning every game out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they're going to be in the hunt, not necessarily a playoff team, but they'll be fighters in each and every game mostly.
Another defensive battle. We're going to move to Pittsburgh, where New England went on the road. Both teams needed to win here, I think. And New England ended up getting 17-14. Pittsburgh, I think, really shit the bed on this one. This was the first game between these two teams since '98 without Tom Brady or Big Ben. And some things still remain, though. New England came out on top.
Yeah, I just don't think Mac Jones is that quarterback. He's not looking impressive to me, and he doesn't seem to be the quarterback that can put that team on his back and carry them to wins, which is discouraging, especially when you drafted him to be that type of game changer and leader. But I just don't see, once they get down in a game, it's going to be hard for them to come back and win games. Now, with Pittsburgh, it's just, I think my takeaway is I really do think it's time to put Kenny Pickett in over Trubisky. I don't think Trubisky's that guy. He's not going to be the game changer for them. And there's too many weapons out there to have Trubisky not spreading it around enough or just making too many mistakes for them to make plays. Kenny Pickett looked in the offseason, preseason, like he was grasping that offense really well, leading those guys down, scoring touchdowns. So I just don't understand why, after 2 games, Mike Tomlin, you want to win games, obviously, so ride the young guy and start his career off right.
Well, the last thing you said, he wants to win games. I think you got to go with the veteran, who was a top 10 pick, number 2 overall, was successful in Buffalo for a year or two, and has had success somewhat around the league.
Yeah. What has he started? Maybe 1 game in Buffalo since he was in Chicago?
Or that's what I meant. He had success in Chicago, not Buffalo.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think one game in Buffalo maybe if Josh Allen was hurt.
Yeah, I want to say maybe one.
He had to sit down or something.
Yeah, but
because they had the division locked up.
I don't know. I mean, I get the mindset coming from there. Where if you like want to win games, that he's probably the smartest choice right now. But I mean, shoot, you got the talent on that team too. If Kenny pays off, you're in a better spot with him.
I agree. His ceiling's higher for sure.
Yeah,
but the floor could be lower.
True. So it's just a matter of risk versus reward.
Right. So I agree. He's gonna get his chance this year. Just it's a matter of when he's ready or when Tom's ready to pull the plug.
For sure. Yeah.
Indy at Jacksonville got shut out on the road. Trevor Lawrence looked very good. I think he started 8 for 8 on his first drive. Looks a little similar to something I saw last night. But we'll talk about that later. Jacksonville looks pretty good and might end up winning this division compared to something else I saw last night. And Indy not having a win yet on the season.
Jacksonville, that might have been a good hot take pick in the offseason to win that division.
Yeah, it would have been.
Because I think they got something going out there. I mean, I like what Christian Kirk's bringing to them right now. They still got Marvin Jones, James Robinson, Travis Etienne. But I think Doug Peterson is paying off big time for them as a hire because he's doing the right things with Trevor Lawrence right now and scheming things the right way. That personnel is really good, and it just fits them as a team right now. And I think Trevor Lawrence still has a high ceiling. I think he was just kind of put in the blender last year with Urban Meyer as head coach and just doing some nonsense out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the biggest takeaway for me was I think I'm going to be very, very wrong on my Colts prediction this year. I think they don't look good. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's still a top player, but you're also out without key players in Shaq Leonard and who else is the other? Pittman was out.
Gilmore lost his step.
Yeah.
The O-line isn't what we expected it.
No, and Matt Ryan looks brutal.
3 picks, under 200 yards. I mean, Taylor only had 9 rushes, which was surprising.
Yeah.
And 54
but I think they got down so quick that it was, you had to, try to pass to win the game.
It's a long game. I never really believed in that.
Well, I mean, you think about it though, you're not going to, if you're down 14, you're not going to probably, run the ball if it's in the second quarter. You got to try to make them down somehow. I mean, you're going to run and keep them off balance, but you're not going to make it a first and second down priority.
I might. I won't be like Dallas running every single first down, but it's gonna be very prominent in my offense. Atlanta on the road against the defending champs, LA Rams, 27-31. They took the L, but they were right there at the end of the game. Scored a touchdown late, had a chance late with the ball. Mariota took a sack though. Very, very rookie play in my opinion. Amateur hour for sure.
Yeah.
He knows better not to do that. But the Rams tried to give this game away for sure in my opinion.
They did.
Stafford threw a pick at the end of the first half, threw a pick in the second half, and Cooper Kupp fumbled.
Man.
I mean, the Rams don't look like they're ready to go back to back at all.
I think you said they're so top heavy. They lack a bunch of depth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get Ramsey or Donald injured, those are 2 guys that are very hard to replace, and your season's on the brink if they go down. So yeah, they don't look like the Rams of last year for sure. And when you're always targeting Cooper Kupp, that's a hard thing to do because you got Allen Robinson, who's a very good receiver in my opinion. So when you're not spreading the ball around, I just think when these quarterbacks get so set in on one receiver, it makes it so much easier to game plan for you because you're tailoring your offense around that one guy.
Yeah. We've seen it plenty of times, and when it comes down to the playoffs, it usually doesn't work. Last year it paid off, but this year it's not looking like it's going to be that way. Atlanta's a team we don't expect to have more than 5-6 wins, and if we expect the Rams to be what they were last year, this game shouldn't have been close at all. So it's not a good sign for this team.
Definitely, I looked at it as a 2-score game.
Yeah, easily.
So, I mean, that's you're up.
It should be.
The Falcons had that 28-3 curse, and that was what the score was at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So for them to almost come back and win, that's kind of ironic. But yeah, that was, especially against the Falcons, man. That's a team you're supposed to go out there and dominate. That's a great bounce back game, especially from that ass whooping you took to Buffalo.
Right. Spread was 10.5. I had the Atlanta covering that, even though the Rams should have won by 17. You know,
Yeah.
I just knew they'd win it. So it's looking like one of those seasons for them. It's looking like one of those seasons for this team too. Cincinnati on the road took an L at Dallas. They start the season 0-2. They lose this game 17-20 to a backup quarterback, Cooper Rush. Cooper Cup, Cooper Rush. Big week for the Coopers.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't know. Something's going on in Cincy that's very worrisome. I mean, that O-line looks worse than last year, which, I mean, that's a shitty feeling for them because you got Joe Burrow being sacked 13 times for 2 weeks. You're gonna make him turn into Andrew Luck. So that's, honestly the biggest takeaway. Hats off to Cooper Rush, and the Cowboys are pulling it out. But I think the one thing that it tells me is Dallas' defense is for real and the offense is still suspect.
Offensive suspect. It will get some players back. Michael Gallup might play this week against the Giants. Obviously, Dak is out. They need to utilize Pollard more, same way the Broncos need to utilize Williams more. Some other teams have some 1-2 combos they need to use better. But defensively, though, I agree with you. Micah Parsons, great up front. DeMarcus Lawrence out there is really good up front. And then Trey White seems to be a shutdown corner now instead of an interception master. So held Jamar to 2 for 14, I think. So that's pretty impressive.
You said Diggs or?
That's what I said, right? Diggs?
I think you said Trey White or something like
that. Oh, did I? I'm sorry. Get back soon, Trey White.
Yeah, no, Diggs, I mean, you saw it last year. Like, he had the potential. Obviously, he was great last year, but he had the potential to be the number one cornerback in the league. Mm-hmm. Just that all-around talent, the skill set. Not a guy. It's like going up against Stephon Diggs. You don't bet against those guys. Like, they can talk shit and they can back it up.
Right.
So.
I'm him. Oh, shit. Y'all probably wish I had Diggs last night, but we'll get to that. Seattle on the road at San Francisco. 7-20. They took the L. Didn't score an offensive touchdown, but that's not the story of the game. Trey Lance breaks his ankle, so we wish him a speedy recovery. But Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, replaces him, gets the dub at home. San Fran's now 1-1, and the future might look a little different now. Yeah,
it's a terrible thing for a young guy with so much promise like Trey Lance to get hurt like that early on in his first full year starting. Last year he took a back seat and learned some, but I still think he is a year or so off from being the guy you can count on and trust and fully hand that offense over to. I think they're in a better spot with Jimmy G going forward. They'll probably be a dark horse in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. At this point, if I had to guess, if they continue to get that ground game going and still play great defense. I mean, they take a back seat with the defense, or they take a step back with the defense. It's probably not looking too promising. Jimmy's not a game-changing quarterback. He's just a great game manager who can be very accurate with the football.
Right. This team dealing with a couple injuries right now. No Elijah Mitchell. George Kittle's supposed to come back soon. And then Jimmy, no off-season ball. Had a shoulder surgery. This was his first game. No camp, none of that. So we expect him to look better as the season goes forward, getting some of his weapons back as well. So
for sure.
Definitely a team to keep an eye out for.
Mm-hmm.
Houston at Denver. Both teams winless. Houston now 0-1. Damn, it gets me every time. Denver 1-1. Houston loses 9-16. But if you're a Denver Broncos fan, you can't feel good about this W.
No, I think Nathaniel Hackett's in way over his head. Just the game management overall, the red zone offense, like it's bad, it's terrible, and there's nothing much else I can say about it. Everyone can see it. Like
when your crowd is counting down the clock, it's bad.
Oh man,
it's like Giannis at the free throw line.
Denver Broncos had 2 delay games all last year. They already have 3 through 2 weeks. I mean, it was brutal to watch. So and it's something about Russell Wilson looking like he's just kind of going with the flow, like you said. in Seattle, he looked like he was in command and in charge of that whole offense.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like that out here. He looks like he's actually listening to his coach and not having much input, which is, you don't sign that guy for that much money and just make him shut up and listen. Like, he's a very smart quarterback, can still get the job done. I think he might have, he's not the prime Russ by any means, but he's still Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I think he can get the job done. Not quite a game manager, but he's not probably the top 10 quarterback that we thought he was coming into the season. Losing two of his weapons now with Judy probably breaking his collarbone last game is going to be a lot tougher on him to succeed in this offense under a new coach who does seem to be over his head. They also lost Simmons, I think, their safety. So, I mean, Surtain's also dealing with injuries, so it's not looking great for this team in a tough division in Denver.
Nah.
Man, in the AFC West,
there's no climbing out of it.
Like you said, he might wish he was back in the NFC South right now. Speaking of the Battle of the Desert, your boy Kyler Murray. There wasn't only 2 games that made history, but there was 3. Down 20-0 at halftime, he comes back and wins in overtime, 29-23. What'd you think about this one? I see you got your Raiders colors on today.
Well, I don't even want to talk about this right now. I don't like Kyler Murray. I don't think he's all that great at quarterback. And I'm not trying to be a hater, but it's just because he's one of the greatest quarterbacks at like maneuvering the pocket and scrambling ability. Like when you can have your offensive line holding up long enough where you are scrambling throughout the pocket for 20 seconds, and all of a sudden you drop a dime in the end zone. Like, number one, that taking that long, the coverage is going to break on the defensive side for sure at some point. And when I watch games and I see quarterback continuously, whether it's Rodgers or Murray or whoever, like running back and forth, sideline to sideline, like throughout the pocket, and just all of a sudden you just get that feeling like this is going to turn into a touchdown right here. Like, you just know it's coming because they get all that time to read everything that's happening in front of them. It's bad news. So, I mean, hats off to Kyler and them for taking the W, but it was just like with the Rams game. It shouldn't have been that close, and they shouldn't have lost. You're up 20-0. Like, come on, man. Like, just not a fun topic. You have to talk about teams that let up a big lead like that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in this game, man. Arizona definitely looked like one of the worst teams in the league in that first half.
Man.
Vegas is a team that could be a couple plays away from 2-0, so it'd be the opposite at 0-2. In that same AFC West that the Denver Broncos are struggling in. It's looking like Kansas City and the Chargers are really in a class of their own.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. And with the Cardinals, even though they won that game, I still am not confident.
Oh, definitely not.
Like, they just pulled a rabbit out of their hat that game. Like,
for sure. And that was Murray magic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So.
And you get that a handful of times throughout the year.
Right. He'll get you 4 of those maybe, but that ain't going to do it all year. Sunday Night Football. Chicago at Green Bay. Pretty much what we expected. Chicago takes the L 10-27. Like to see more from Justin Fields, but Rodgers had a bounce back game. 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Really utilized the running game more. Defense really showed up after that blunder they had against the Vikings.
Yep.
But that's what you expect against a guy who's only going to have 11 pass attempts in Justin Fields.
Right.
7 of 11 for 70 yards. What do you think about the Chicago offense? What do you think about this game right here?
I think Chicago they showed me that they didn't actually. I think 49ers just didn't come out to play against them. You rerun that game, and it's going to be 49ers taking the W. I think Chicago showed us who they truly are. They're just overall bad. They don't got many playmakers out there, and Justin Fields, it's a shame that he's got to be in that system right now because he's got a lot more talent than what that offense allows him to produce.
It's tough to see him out there because he definitely has a talent to be top 15, 18 guy. So right now he's looking like a bottom 5 guy.
Yeah.
So there's really not much that you can say to defend him right now other than I believe that he has a talent. But
man, and then you think about Green Bay. They did what they had to do and what they're supposed to do. This without Devontae, you got to utilize those running backs damn near every play. It's got to be running the ball and getting it to them, getting in their hands in the passing play. I mean, Lazard, sure, he made a couple plays out there. Sammy Watkins made a nice catch. But you still look at Watson and Dobbs out there, and it's head scratchers almost. Like, they don't have the timing down. It's looking kind of rough right now, so that's a lot. That's going to be a lot to work on right there with those two, and Rodgers. But you just got to utilize your running backs and play good defense.
Plain and simple. That's usually been the formula for success, and people usually do it with an average quarterback, and you don't have one of those. So hopefully they can get on the same. He can get on the same page as those receivers he has out there.
For sure.
Monday Night Football. Tennessee at Buffalo got their fucking teeth kicked in, 7-41. Was a close game at halftime. 7-7 at the end of the first quarter, 17-7 at halftime. But Josh Allen, 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. Diggs, 3 touchdowns, just about 150 yards. I think he had 12 catches on 14 targets or something like that. This is just complete domination by Buffalo. They've been able to turn the switch on against the Rams in Tennessee that the Rams in Tennessee just don't have. And I don't know if anybody does right now.
I don't see a team being able to beat them in the Super Bowl at this point in the season.
Both sides of the ball.
They just look too dominant. Like, I haven't seen this type of domination from a team in quite some time.
It feels that way so far.
If we go back, we would probably get the production wise probably up there, but it just feels like, and the first game you play the Rams, you expect a closer game, but they just dominate them. Second game, Tennessee, I expect them to dominate Tennessee, and that's what they do.
Right.
So when you got a team who's firing on all cylinders like that, man, watch out, because they got the potential to go undefeated if it breaks their way. But do I see that happening in a long NFL season? No. I'll give them 2 losses, but that's probably as far as they go.
Enough said. Like I said, man, we don't need to talk about Buffalo too much. This team looks unreal right now.
Yeah, hats off to them. They got it going on, coaching staff to players and personnel. Like, it's all clicking at the right time for them.
Yes, indeed. Now, our nightcap, Monday Night Football, second game. Minnesota goes on the road, takes the L to Philly, 7-24. What'd you think about this one, my friend?
What could go wrong did go wrong. Like, plain and simple. The coaches didn't have anyone prepared to play. The game plans were awful, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That soft shell zone coverage was just pathetic. There were so many I've never seen so many open spaces before for receivers to just sit there and get an easy catch and throw.
It looked like the Packers defense against you guys weekend.
Yeah, it was exactly like the games were flipped almost. And that, I'm sure that's how the Packers felt last week. But my thing is like, why don't you adjust throughout the game? Like, why aren't you manning up? Why aren't you playing more on coverage? Like, so it was tough to watch. I think the Kirk primetime thing might be real. I just hate primetime.
It's real.
I hate primetime games.
Don't think about it.
I hate primetime games. I don't know what is the explanation to that though? Like, why does that happen?
So he's just not built for it, maybe.
It's.
I'll cut Kirk some slack because Irv Smith dropped a dime down.
And that's a game changer right there.
Game changer.
That was Christian Watson 2.0.
That keeps you. It is, honestly. It keeps you right there in contention. You're like, okay, we got it.
It felt like karma.
Right there.
It felt like karma.
Hey, I had a lot of Vikings fans hitting me after that Ravens game. And I'm just like, y'all haven't played yet. Y'all don't know how y'all doing.
Hey,
time.
I wasn't talking shit.
You weren't talking shit. No.
That I was just like, what the fuck? Because I expected the Ravens to win that game, and I still think a Harbaugh coached Ravens team is a great team, and I always feel that way. They've proved it. So, but on the Viking side of things, it's like, people are going to be very quick to jump ship now all of a sudden because it seems like the same old Vikings are rolling into town, which we are known for that. And I've kept a humble level head all offseason. I have not getting too high, but I've talked about what the best outcome could be.
Right.
So I'm not going to hang my head and cry after one game because I do believe, regardless of we think right now, but what we saw last night, I do believe the Eagles in that zone read scheme is lethal. Hurts runs that to perfection. He can take off and run and kill you on the ground, but he also looked like he was dropping absolute dimes out there last night. Granted, there was no good coverages, but even when it was a tight window, tight space, he laid it in there perfectly. So I think he might be starting to take that next step, which is a great sign for that offense, that team, with all those playmakers they brought in on both sides of the ball. That might be a top 3 seed in the NFC.
So this game ended up being 7-24. You mentioned that zone read and how potent he is in that offense. That I think 3 offensive linemen downfield calls that I think were first downs.
And one on us too. It was 4-12. I've never seen it before in my life.
I mean, this score could have been a lot worse than.
Oh, it felt a lot worse. Like I said, told you, it felt like the NFC Championship game when it was 38-7. It just felt like that complete domination that went against us. Mm-hmm. But I was proud of myself last night. I didn't scream or nothing. I laid here on the couch and I just watched because I'm like, this is all too familiar. And I still felt that gut punch, but I took it like a man last night. I wasn't bitching and complaining, but it was hard to watch because I just felt like we were out coached completely. Big time. And that I put this loss on Kevin O'Connell and his staff. Obviously they got to go out there and make plays, but you also got to look at it from a standpoint. Thielen wasn't targeted once in the first half. Irv dropped a couple key catches. KJ Osborne had 1 catch. And then we're constantly looking for Jefferson, and he was getting bodied last night by Darius Slay. And hats off to him. He played a hell of a game. It's not going to break JJ's way every single game. So we got to get that expectation out of our head where it's got to go to JJ. He doesn't need record-breaking numbers. If you want to go to a Super Bowl or NFC Championship, he may not be able to have record-breaking numbers. We got to play as a team and collect W's. So that will come naturally if we just do that. Because I think we still got great receivers other than him that can open things up even more for him. You just got to learn how to spread the ball around, and that's not what I saw from Kirk last night. I thought he was too, I didn't look like he was seeing ghosts out there. Now, on the other side of things with the running game, Dalvin's got to be better. He's just got to be better. We can't have Kirk out-rushing you.
Kirk was your leading rusher, I think.
Yeah, 20 yards.
20 yards.
You can't do that. You're a dynamic back. You got to be able to read the field and bounce that shit outside if you have to. But I don't know what it is, what it's going to take. That's why I'm scared about this upcoming game. But this is a must-win in my eyes against Detroit because they're going to be a tough team.
Last time I sat here, I mentioned Detroit's offense, and you said, "Do you think they have an offense like us?" I said, "No." I might change my answer. I think their offense is better than yours, and they don't have who I think will be their second best weapon in Jameson Williams behind Amon-Ra St. Brown, who
Fair enough.
I think is a true number 1 now.
Fair enough.
You're top heavier. Dalvin's better than their running backs, but their running back room is better. And JJ's better than Amon-Ra, but their wide receiver room is better in my opinion. Hockenson, I'll give the edge over Irv.
For sure.
The only reason I gave you the nod before was Kirk over Goff, but if Kirk's gonna play like that,
that's what I'm saying.
That's sad.
He's handcuffing us when he plays like that. That's not a quarterback that puts a team on their back.
He's handcuffing you and robbing you.
Yeah.
He's a cop and a robber.
I know. It's
two-faced.
But you know what? It's a long season. I'm not gonna hang my head and cry. But I will say, last night though, it felt like another. I'm smelling another 500 season.
You have confidence in McConnell still, or O'Connell?
Yeah, I'm not wavering right now. I'm not gonna go out after 2 games and say, hey. I just think how Vikings fans are. It's week 1, you get a W. On top of it, you beat Green Bay. People are smelling the roses at that point. That's why they call it the Vikings Super Bowl.
Vikings fans are like Carson Wentz. The highs are high, and the lows are low.
Yes, and there's no in between.
Nah, you guys are never level-headed.
There's no in between. And
Cowboys' little brother.
and you know it's
and the Packers.
So that's why it's just like I'm trying to be my best version of a Vikings fan and trying to keep the
growth.
Yes, exactly. I can't, because if this was me last year after a loss, like I'd be on here just sitting, bitching, moaning, cussing about every little thing.
Zimmer.
I'm not gonna sit.
Like you, man.
I'm not gonna sit here and do that. It's O'Connell's second game. We still let's not pretend here. We only added a couple pieces in the offseason. This is practically the same team as last year. So
okay,
like you know what we're giving you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of you adding, Zadarius. Ed Ingram's the starting right guard now. You brought in Lewisine, who didn't play but one snap last night. Andrew Booth is hurt. Cam Bynum looks pretty bad. Patrick Peterson looks like he's lost a step for sure. Like,
I wasn't hearing this after week 1. That's all I'll say.
No, you weren't. But I wasn't also on here saying I didn't understand why after week 1 people in the media and everything would start trying to say and call us a top 5 team. I never said we were a top 5 team.
I said you look like one. You're probably 5 or 6 in my opinion. I don't remember what I said, but you look like it after week 1.
After week 1, yeah, I could argue that, but I'm not, let's not pretend, what did we do to dramatically change this team this year? I'm not sitting up here and saying that we're going to be a top 3 seed in the NFC this year. I'm not, I'll be happy if we get in as a wild card. If we make the playoffs, I'm going to be happy, and I expect us to make the playoffs.
You should for sure make the playoffs.
I expect us to make the playoffs. If it does, I don't, obviously you want to be higher up in the seedings, but it's like, I can't sit here with expectations and be like, yes, we're winning the Super Bowl. Yes, we're going to the Super Bowl. I'm not that confident in this team. So, I'm not going to sit here and act like I am. It's very disappointing. It's one thing if we lose to Philly. It's another if we lose to Houston.
That's true. This was a potential NFC Championship game, so.
And you got Philly. You got Philly players after the game saying they expect to see us again this year. So obviously, you got other people seeing what we're capable of. It's just got to be on a all I want is consistency. You don't go out there and play great one week and then shit the bed the next. We can't have that. You cannot do that. If anything, I would have rather lost to them, by 7, by 3, maybe even 10. Not 17 in the fashion that we did. Put up more of a fight. Make adjustments.
Yeah, it looked like complete domination from beginning to end in that game.
I mean, my gut sank after that first drive. It looked so easy for them, and it was like, this is going to be a long night.
Perfect passes, and then a 3-and-out.
It was the quickest 3-and-out there was, too.
Tough.
You can't have that. In football, time of possession means everything, bro. And they just dominated it. At one point they said it was what was it, 26 to 16 or 13 or something like that. It was bad.
So Dalvin only had how many carries this game?
It seemed
6?
It seemed like a handful.
You think they should have given him more carries even though they were down big?
I think we were at the point where we had to pass, but it was just nothing was breaking our rate. Credit to Philly, they had great coverage all night long. They were
swarming. Their linebackers were great. Their DBs were great.
We couldn't do nothing. They were suffocating us. That's what it felt like. It was just you get a glimmer of hope in a couple of plays, and then it's just holy shit. Darius Slay should have 4 interceptions.
It looked like Ohio State against the rest of the Big Ten.
It was bad, and I'm, not gonna act like it wasn't. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, we both fucking put out embarrassing performances this week.
Yeah, but if yours came out, if our games were flipped time wise, you'd be more talked about than we would this week.
We were at 12. There are 8 other games at 12. There are 5 games at 4:30.
Those primetime games, when you play it like that on primetime, you don't stop hearing it until you play the next week.
Until Thursday night. Hell yeah. That'll do it for our Week 2 review. Coming up next will be our Week 3 preview. For our week opener of Week 3, we have a division matchup. Pittsburgh Steelers go on the road and face the Cleveland Browns. This is going to be a defensive battle, in my opinion, with very average quarterbacks, guys that we ranked in the high 20s in our quarterback ranking episode. No TJ Watt, but what do you expect from this game?
I think I'm going to roll with Cleveland in this one. I just think, after what Pittsburgh showed me against New England, it wasn't too inspiring. I still have, even though they lost them to the Jets and let up some scores late, I still have a little bit more faith in Jacoby and that Cleveland team over Pittsburgh right now at this point in time.
This is a tough game, man. I'm going to have to go Cleveland at home just because it's a short week. I do have a little more faith in Chubb and that offense than I do in Trubisky and those guys. Najee's still a little banged up, so I'm going to have to go Cleveland.
Yeah, and it showed, I think, this last game against New England that Pittsburgh's defense definitely does struggle without TJ Watt. He's such a game changer where he makes that defense go when he's out there.
Mm-hmm. That game should have been close in my opinion, but whatever. It's old news now. Starting off in the noon games, you have Baltimore looking to revenge their loss against Miami on the road at the team we just talked about, the New England Patriots. I expect a bounce back win for my guys right here.
Yeah, there's not much that needs to be said. I expect Baltimore to handle their business against New England.
Always a good battle between Belichick and Harbaugh, but I don't think they have the offense to hang with us. Their defense is solid, so they might give us a little trouble, but we should handle this team. Houston on the road at Chicago.
I'm rolling with Houston.
Me too, unfortunately. Hopefully they let Fields throw the ball a little bit. I'm looking for at least 20, 25 attempts. That's really what I'm looking for out of this game. I don't really expect great defense, great offense. It might be a high-scoring game, might be a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
Two coaches that are new in their offense, or two coaches that are new in those franchises. So it's going to be a game I might not have my eyes on too close.
And Lovie Smith might want to take it to the Bears a little bit extra.
Yeah, you never know. Let me go, I'll show you. Las Vegas at Tennessee. Two teams looking to bounce back. Two teams that are 0-2. Who you got in this one?
I'm rolling with the Raiders still. I think that they have a nice little bounce back. I think things might start to look like they're clicking a little more this week, a little extra. So I'm going to roll with the Raiders.
Yeah, we talked about it before. This team is 5 plays away from being 2-0. So Tennessee is about 55 plays away from being 2-0. So I'm going to have to go with the Raiders on this one as well. Easy work. Kansas City on the road at Indy. Indy, very underwhelming so far. Kansas City should make easy work of Indy as well, in my opinion.
This is a no-brainer. Kansas City should win, by another 2 scores in this game. I mean, obviously, you got to look for is Mike Pittman back or is Shaq Leonard going to play? But because they obviously make a bit of difference. But I still got way more confidence in Kansas City than Indianapolis.
There's nothing that Indy has done so far that gives me any confidence in them offensively or defensively outside of Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Defense is very underwhelming. Matt Ryan looks like he's at the end of his rope right now.
Yep.
And this KC team has got too much for him. Buffalo at Miami. Definitely going to be a good game after what we saw last week.
It's going to be a good one.
Still, I'm expecting Buffalo to take the W of this game until somebody proves that they can stay within 20 points of this team.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I got Buffalo in this game for sure, but if they beat Miami by 14 or more, that's going to show me a lot more in 3 weeks with Buffalo than any other team because they will be looking unstoppable.
So you're really a Tua believer?
What do you mean?
You're really a Tua believer?
I expect Miami. I've said it all along that I think that they will battle, not necessarily that well with the Chiefs or with the Bills, but that's their main competition in that division, and I think they'll be battling with them, throughout the year. So I'm not going to say I'm a Tua believer because I think he's a little bit limited in certain aspects of his game, but like I said, he's got so many game changers in that offense. Like, he doesn't have to do too much. This should be an explosive game.
The only reason I'm not super duper confident in betting against Tua is because obviously Tyreek came from the Chiefs and the Bills couldn't do anything with him over there. So having to guard him and Waddle, even though they have good defensive backs and great safeties, they're not the fastest guys. And I mean, maybe they'll scheme up something great, but I don't know. It's going to be a good game either way.
Like I said, I think the Bills, if they win by 2 touchdowns or more, it's gonna pretty much tell me that they're very dominant. Because it would be a third week in a row where they're putting up double-digit wins, and that's pretty telling for a team.
What do you expect from Tua this game? I'm looking at like 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks.
I wouldn't be surprised if he threw for 220 and got 1 touchdown, maybe 1 pick. Like, it's not gonna be overwhelming numbers by any means, but like I said, after this week, I don't know what to predict anymore.
Week 2 was freaking unbelievable. History, I don't even know, man. Week 2 was unbelievable. Detroit at Minnesota, a game that I am not quite sure yet, and I'm gonna let you pick first.
Well, like I said, I'm not gonna.
I am. I got Detroit.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna still rock with Minnesota.
Even though it's at home.
I think being Detroit's first game on the road, Vikings usually play well at home, in front of their crowd.
It's your first game at home?
No, it's our second.
Oh.
But, we had a nice solid win over Green Bay.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So, I expect to bounce back. I'm not going to say, we're going to kill the Lions by any means, because I think it's going to be a close game, and it's going to be a hard fought, but we'll pull it out.
Score prediction? Just for your team. Gotta do it. We'll come back to it.
No, I got it. 30-27.
30-27. Walk-off field goal. Who has the ball last? You run it out, kneel it out.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Goff throws a pick to Harrison Smith to clutch the game.
He might be out this week. He's concussed.
Oh, word? Yeah,
Yeah.
he was flying around last game for nothing. Cincinnati on the road in New York. 0-2. Trouble in paradise in Cincinnati, but do you think they'll bounce back against this New York team?
This has got to be the game they bounce back. If this is not the game they bounce back, season's over. Like, this has got to be the game they bounce back, and I believe they will, because it's still the Jets.
I'm hoping they can, play off that high they had last game against beating Cleveland, but I'm going to have to agree with you. Say Cincinnati wins this game. There's not a bone in my body that's ever believed in Joe Flacco, so there's no way I'm going to bet Joe Flacco to beat a team that was in the Super Bowl last year.
For sure.
Philly at Washington. Easy work, but I do think Washington is going to make this an entertaining game in the first
You usually have those division games that are played tighter than out of division games for some reason.
You're right.
So, I will say that Philly may have a little bit of a comeback to earth type game, and they'll win by 7 or 10 points, but they'll pull it off.
That's a fair score. I think Washington is underrated with their weapons offensively. Carson Wentz just has to take care of the ball. Defense does struggle, though, and they gave up a lot of points last week to Detroit.
For sure, yeah.
Detroit is the number 1 scoring offense in the league, so I'm not going to hold that against them too much.
Yep.
Our last noon game is New Orleans on the road at Carolina, another division game. We have Jameis Winston looking to bounce back from 3 picks against Baker Mayfield, looking for his first win of the season.
This smells like a New Orleans win. They'll bounce back. Winston will play a good game.
I agree. It's looking like 0-3 for Carolina, and still a lot of work to do. New Orleans has too good of a defense, too good of weapons on the outside.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Kamara's going to be playing or not, but I expect Winston to bounce back, even though Carolina does have a good defense. Baker's going to give New Orleans defense just as many opportunities.
For sure.
Especially with Smith back there, Matthew back there. It's going to be quite a game, I think, for this New Orleans defense. Evening games, we have Jacksonville on the road at the Chargers, which I think is going to be a very entertaining game.
Yeah, you'd think so after the way Jaguars came out and played these first 2 weeks. But it's still the Chargers. I don't know how long Keenan Allen's out, but because he adds a whole different component to that offense, with opening things up for Mike Williams and even that Josh Palmer is really turning it up. But Austin Eckler, he's still yet to have a game that's...
He's been underwhelming.
Yeah, he's has yet to have that big game. So, and depending on how Herbert's feeling from that fractured rib cartilage, it could be close, but I could also see the Chargers winning by a couple scores.
You're right. I can see it going either way, coming down to the wire almost, or the Chargers winning. Either way, I do have the Chargers winning, but Jacksonville, like we talked about, is a team that's going to be in a lot of these games.
For sure.
Upsetting a couple teams like they did last week, maybe
Yeah.
in Indianapolis. The Rams on the road in a division game will take on the Cardinals. Two teams where I did not like their wins last week. Two teams where I don't really like their teams. But they're going to face each other twice this year. This is the first matchup between them. Who you got in this one?
Surprisingly, I'm going to take Cardinals.
That is a surprise.
I think that I'm going to roll with the Cardinals, but I could see it being, you know, one of those hangover games where they are too emotional coming off of this last win, walk-off win. And the Rams kind of having a pissed off taste in their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll pick, you know, as much as I have hated on Kyler Murray, I'm going to roll with him. There's something about, until the Rams can give me a game where they, like, single-handed, like, they just solidify them being a top team still and going out and dominating a game, I just don't know if I can trust them right now.
That's fair enough, but I'm still going to go with the Rams in this game. I do not like the Arizona secondary. I don't like their weapons right now. And I think the Rams is going to have a pretty easy time with this game. Aaron Donald's going to get his way, or have his way with his offensive line. Jalen Ramsey is going to shut down whoever he's guarding. And I think this offense, there's nobody to guard Cooper Kupp. I mean, Buda Baker's back there. He's a good safety, but he's not a defensive back. So I don't really think there's going to be an answer to stop this Rams team. Even though I don't like them, and in the first part I talked about how little confidence I have in them, but I have even less confidence in Arizona right now, especially without D-Hop.
Fair enough.
Atlanta on the road against Seattle. This might be the two worst teams in the league outside of this Houston and Chicago game. So week 3, you've outdone yourself for sure. Who you got in this one?
I'm going to go with Atlanta. I think that Geno had a good game that Monday night. But he came back to earth and showed us why he's a backup.
Plain and simple.
Like, that's what it is.
I told you, I hope that quote doesn't come back to haunt him.
He's trying to trademark it.
Is he? That's all right. I mean, he didn't play awful last game.
No, but he doesn't do enough to...
He didn't play good, though.
No, he doesn't do enough, like, on a week-to-week basis to make you feel confident in him as your quarterback.
Nah,
so
he's a dig and dunker.
I think Atlanta's a little more talented, and I think that they should be able to take care of business this week.
Should Kyle Pitts request a trade?
Did he?
Should he?
Depends on how how it starts to move forward. I mean, do they start to go out of their way to target him, or make him a focal point in that offense? Because that's what he needs to be. I mean, he needs to be that number one guy out there. So whatever Mariota's got to do to fix it and correct it, it better be quick, because that's what, to keep him happy, you're going to need to do that.
That's the key to success out there, honestly. Our last evening game, 2 veterans, 2 GOATs. Aaron Rodgers at Tampa Bay. Who you got?
I'm rolling with the Packers here. I think,
Who you got?
The Packers.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I think something's telling me, Tom's not looking like Tom.
No.
No,
Tom looks like Tom. He don't look like Tom Brady. He looks like some regular Tom right now.
Yeah. I just think, and then you don't got Mike Evans for this game. Godwin, I don't know if he's playing. Julio, I don't know if he's playing. You just signed Cole Beasley. So it's not,
I didn't even know that.
That's not a good sign.
He's going to have fucking 85 yards
So,
and 2 touchdowns.
I can see the Packers winning by, touchdown or field goal. Or touchdown, 10 points.
Yeah, wow. This Tampa defense is just unreal, in my opinion, right now.
I think if they get a pick six or a scoop and score or something, then we're probably talking more along the lines of a Buccaneers win. But Aaron Rodgers don't make many mistakes, and when he does,
he doesn't. But there might be miscommunication with the young receiver, and that's what's going to go to the house. I'm going to go Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Over Green Bay in this one.
Okay.
Plus, we need some differences. Sunday Night Football, we have San Francisco on the road in Mile High taking on Russell Wilson.
Sounds like such an ugly game.
Oh, I'm not even going to watch this one if I didn't have to.
It sounds like. But I'm going to go with 49ers, Jimmy G.
Why?
Because I think it's going to be an extra week of him getting reacclimated in that offense with Debo and all those guys. And they're going to, they know that successful formula with Jimmy G. So I think that they start to get back on track that way. He does enough to have a better managing game than Russell Wilson. I still think that Denver's red zone offense is putrid. Having Justin Simmons out is very hurtful. And then Jerry Jeudy, possibly being out or whatever for however long. Their season is just in the blender right now, and they don't know how to get out of the situation they're in.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I'm going to go San Francisco. This team has been successful with Jimmy. They got Jimmy back, and he's only going to get better as the season goes on. He's not going to be great. We know what his ceiling is, but we know what he brings to the table. For this game, I think it'll be just enough. I mean, Denver, they won last week, but they look like they're in shambles right now still. Like you mentioned, Nathaniel Hackett looks way over his head, and it doesn't look good out there in Mile High.
Yeah.
Who's the worst team in the AFC West to you? Is it Denver?
It's Denver for sure.
You think they'll finish with the worst record, or you think they'll just look the worst all season?
In that division,
Yeah.
They'll have the worst record.
Okay. Yeah, it's looking that way right now. Monday Night Football to cap it off. We have the New York 2-0 football Giants on the road against Dallas in Cooper Rush.
Give me the New York Giants.
Holy fuck. Me too. Giants are 3-0.
I would have never guessed it.
Man, I mean, it's just working out perfectly for them. I think this is going to be a game they're going to be able to pull out. Even though this defense of Dallas, you know what?
I think the key, though, is...
I'm going to go Dallas.
Okay, but I think the key is them playing in New Jersey. I think that's what does it for me. Dallas seems to play pretty poorly when it's on the road, and...
This game's in Dallas.
I thought it was in New York. All I heard was Skip saying they go to New York.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Let me look here.
Yeah, if you want to look it up for a second. But I'm going to pick Dallas just because it's defense against Daniel Jones. There's nothing about Daniel Jones that I trust. Even though I like the weapons on the outside.
Yep.
Saquon Barkley.
It's in New York.
It's in New York. I still like Dallas on the road.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is a game that's another tough one to pick because I can see going either way, but I just feel more comfortable picking New York right now. I know what I said about Dallas last week, and it backfired, but I still don't see... I think New York's defense is much better than Dallas's offense.
I feel the same way the other way. I think Michael Parsons is going to go ahead and give him 2 more sacks. That running game's going to...
But I don't think...
it always does in New York.
I won't say, though... I won't say it's going to be a strip sack or anything. I just think, they might get those turnovers, but New York does a little more with getting Saquon open in the field. And I'm not a Kenny Galladay fan, but I think they have some weapons over there that can handle. They've shown before they can handle Dallas's defense,
right?
And that's what I'm talking about with those. It seems like with those divisional games, it's always. They kind of have each other's numbers. And so I'm going to roll with it being in New York. I'm going with the Giants.
They definitely have a better coach, too.
Yeah.
So if it comes down to the end...
I like what Dayball's doing out there.
Yeah.
So
we know what Mike McCarthy brings, the clock management, end of the game situation. So
yep.
Him and Nathaniel Hackett are fighting over that trophy right now. Anyway, though, we kept that Week 3 preview pretty short. Just gave you our picks. More differences than we've had in the past, but that's going to be it for us today. Until next time, my guy.
All right, bro.